The Interview Show would like to thank Cards Against Humanity, Lifeway Foods, It Takes Guts, Field Notes, vintage-styled, made-in-the-USA pocket notebooks at 401 North Racine in Chicago or fieldnotesbrand.com, and Lagunitas. Beer speaks, people mumble, except on The Interview Show.
So I want to obviously talk about a mix of fun stuff, which is sports.
Yeah.
But I also want to get a little bit into serious stuff, which is kind of the crap that
Bummer.
inundates daily. But let's start with the fun stuff, and that is you were a criminal and family attorney, and then one day, or over the course of several days, you said, screw it. I love sports. I love the Constitution as well, but I'm moving outside of the justice system. I'm going to write about sports. How did that happen?
I wanted to be a sports writer. I mean, I went to journalism school. That's what I wanted to do. But there weren't a ton of women writing about sports back then. So, your choices of coming out of Indiana University Journalism School are like, write about the high school basketball teams for the Bloomington Herald-Times, or go to law school, because that way you can put off making a decision about life for 3 more years.
Okay.
So that's what I chose.
But then you ended up really going into law. And so what was your day like when you weren't writing about sports? What was your day like in court or with clients?
Well, when I was a public defender, it's actually a really great job, and it's tons of fun, because especially if you're doing misdemeanors, because it's like night court.
Yeah.
I mean, every case is like crazier than the one before.
Fun for you, less fun for the criminals.
Less fun for them, but when it's misdemeanors, I mean, nobody's really going away for that long. You know, I mean, the most you're going to get is like 6 months.
Yeah.
So it was it wasn't
Still
like,
not that much fun.
Nah. But you know what? You'd be surprised, because there were people who wanted to go back into jail because like their whole family was in there and they wanted to see people. Seriously, I had like families and they'd be like, no, it's all right, my uncle's there, my dad's there, it'll be fine. And I'm just like,
really?
okay.
Then we're doing something wrong as a society, if that's true. All right, so let's move on to sports, which is you go into this job, which is supposed to be super, super fun.
Right.
Sports.
Right.
But more often than not, or maybe as often as
often, yeah.
You're covering stuff that's happening outside of the lines, or you're attracted to that stuff. You're attracted to saying, I'm not going to sit there while everybody is ignoring or just celebrating the signing of Aroldis Chapman.
Right.
And you're saying, I love the Cubs. All I want is for them to win. But for me, I need to say something. So talk about that a little, of the sports versus what happens, as they say, outside the lines.
Yeah, I think that, in the past couple of years, there's a group of like 10 women sports writers who have decided to sort of start speaking out about this. There's Jessica Luther, she broke the Baylor story. She's got a book coming out in September. There's Jane McManus at ESPN. There's Sarah Spain at ESPN.
Who's been on the show here.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of us, and it just decided that we've just kind of had it. And, for me, when I would see cases of sexual assault or cases of domestic violence, I'd actually worked in court for years with, those kinds of cases. And so when you see people say things like, oh, well, she didn't press charges, so it's probably not true, it was just sort of hard to sit there and not say, that's not the way it works. Victims don't press charges all the time for a variety of reasons. Or, prosecutors will come out and say, oh, we dropped the case because there wasn't enough evidence, and everyone reads from that, oh, she's lying. But if you've worked in the system, you know that prosecutors drop cases for a variety of reasons all the time, even though, the guy is probably guilty. So it was tough to sit there and just sort of see mainstream sports writers just sort of like ignoring that issue. And I think that, women are making up nearly 50% of sports fans in all the 4 major professional sports. And so I think there's a lot of us that just sort of feel like someone has to speak for the women as well that are trying to watch this and, or have been victims of this or have friends who have been victims, and someone should say something.
So let's talk about a specific. Let's talk about Chapman.
Okay.
Chapman had gone through had been suspended by Major League Baseball for what?
30 days.
30 days.
30 games.
30 games, and he had admitted, I think, to shooting a gun in a garage where his girlfriend is a number of times.
Well, she was hiding in the bushes.
Okay.
He was in the garage.
Okay.
The baby was in the next room. Their baby was sleeping in the next room.
All right, so obviously terrible. He's admitted to that. He has not admitted to any physical altercation with his girlfriend. And he's still, I believe, with his girlfriend, or at least he was after that.
Yeah, they're still together.
Okay. This happens when he's on a different team. He goes through the process. The Cubs obviously sign him, and he throws the ball 105 miles an hour. Right. So he's a missing piece in their puzzle.
He's a once in a generation pitcher.
Right.
I mean, that's
So I know the answer to this, but if you could do it, if you were the Cubs, you would not have signed him.
You know, it's not necessarily that I wouldn't have signed him, but I would have done a lot of things first. So like they keep saying, oh, he's gone to counseling. Well, he went to one counseling session. That's what Major League Baseball requires, one session. Meet with a psychologist one time.
Who has that as their ringtone? And will you come on the show in October? Back to Aroldis Chapman. That's cool, that's cool. Enjoy the phone call. It's not that you wouldn't have signed him, but they didn't do what you believe.
They didn't do what I thought they should have done. And the thing that really bothered me was, you know, after everything that happened with the Bears and Ray McDonald, I thought the Cubs, because they're
Which
so
was a disaster
smart,
for the Bears.
Disaster.
Yeah.
And the Cubs are so smart about everything, and Theo's so smart, and Joe's so smart, and I thought they would handle it better. And instead we heard the same stuff we heard from the Bears. We talked to his family members, we talked to his former teammates, they all said he's a great guy, you know? So that to me was really disappointing. And it just didn't look like there had been any progress made at all in understanding sort of how abusers operate. You know, meaning that they're extremely manipulative, that they're very good at looking like the greatest guy in the world while they go home and beat the crap out of their family members. And I think anybody that has worked in the domestic violence industry sort of knows that. It's sort of like, you know, domestic violence 101. So to hear them say stuff like that, and, you know, they're still defending him. The players are still saying, you know, everyone needs to know that he's a great guy. Well, you don't know if he's a great guy or not. You don't live with him. You don't go home with him. You see what he shows you when he comes to the locker room, when he comes to the clubhouse. That's it.
I would say most Cubs fans will say, I get it.
Yeah.
I love watching the team win.
Right. Or shut up about it now.
But there are a few fans who, and there's going to be fans who also agree with you completely and say, I totally get it and I agree with you. But then there's a few fans, and we don't have to belabor it, but it's worth talking about. I tweeted that you were going to be on the show, that you were going to come. We do this as a live show, and I tweeted about it. Within a second, somebody had tweeted back I won't repeat it, but some very, very nasty thing about you. And I just put my head down and thought, should I just delete the tweet? Because it ruined it. And I get that Twitter is a place where everything goes, it's the Wild West, and there's some appeal to that. But, I mean, you and Sarah Spain did a video about it with men reading back tweets that other people had written that are just, I mean, I won't repeat them, I can't even repeat them, that are just the nastiest possible
Those weren't even
insults.
the worst ones. We had to like censor those down because they were ones that you could actually say and not get kicked off of YouTube. Like the worst ones didn't even make it into the video.
So do you come away from that thinking, all right, there are some really ugly, probably sad people out there, but I still feel that most people, including everybody watching, are decent people who want women to be part of the sports discussion, who may not like what I write all the time, may not always agree with me, but are civil about it? Or do you think the world sucks?
Well, I mean, it depends on the day. Most of the days, I think, you know, this is a small minority of guys, and they're just, you know, pains in the butt and whatever. But then there's days when, for whatever reason, you know, you woke up late and you're crabby and you have a headache, or like, you got in a fight with your spouse on the way to work or whatever, that I just feel like, you know, after you hear so many times, like, you're fat, you're ugly, you suck at your job, I hope someone kills you, I hope someone rapes you with a hockey stick. Like, there's those days when you just sort of curl into a ball and are just kind of like, yeah, this world really does kind of suck.
I mean, you got a family, you got kids. What does your family say? Are they like, Mom, get the hell off there?
I don't think my kids are really all that interested. Like, they just, you know, like, we had real sports at our house and stuff, and they're teenagers, so they could not be less impressed.
Yeah.
They're just like, you know, people, like, I'm always like, isn't it cool? I'm like in sports and stuff, and they're like, yeah, whatever, Mom. They don't care.
Which is good. That's good. That's what you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think it bothers them a little bit when.
I mean, my kids are in awe of what I do up here.
Really?
But yeah.
My kids could not be less impressed. You know, my husband is here, and he has listened to me cry so many times about this, and you know, talked me through it. And you've got to get over this, and you've got to learn how to deal with this, or find a new job. You know, and he's kind of get through it the best you can. But I mean, there's days when you can say anything to me, and I'm just like, you know, I don't care. And then there's other days when you just
TTW.
Yeah. I know. And there's other days when it's just like, you know, you just are sort of like, you're right, I do suck. I'm gonna go away for a while.
What's fun about sports? What's great about sports?
Oh, like there's so many great stories. I mean, I think the Olympics was such a great example of it. I hated everything about the Rio Olympics. I hated what is gonna happen to the people there once the Olympics and the Paralympics leave. I hate how much money they spent on it. I hate the way the IOC treats the countries that, you know, that wind up winning and the people there. But the Olympics themselves are so great. And these Olympics especially, because I think we saw women come to the forefront in so many sports in a way we've never seen before. And it was so much fun to watch. And that's the kind of stuff that makes it so much fun.
Who does it right? Who does it right from an athlete perspective or a coach perspective? Who in Chicago you're like, that guy gets it, he gets us, he gets the media, he gets the fans?
I mean, I think Joe Madden does it right most of the time. I think the Cubs get it right most of the time. I don't know. I would have said the Blackhawks before the whole Patrick Kane thing, but again, I was really disappointed in some of the things they put out there. So, I don't know. The Fire? I don't
know. All right. Well, here's to your next Chicago Fire blog.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Julie DiCaro.
It's the biggest football game of the year, on the biggest field. Actually, the same size field. It's the only game you have to watch, regardless of interest level. Coming exclusively for the first time ever to public television, Sunday, February 5th. Featuring the Interview Show versus the Interview Show in an intra-squad spectacular. Super Bowl 50-something. Right after Antiques Roadshow.
Guests on the Interview Show all share one thing in common. They take risks. We'd like to thank Lifeway Foods, makers of probiotic kefir, for making possible this week's It Takes Guts interview.
Every time we correspond, and I know I'm not alone, you end every text or email or phone conversation with party time, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, bro.
A lot of times.
And you, I mean, that's you. I mean, that's what I love about you. Are you guys the same that way, or is it the yin and the yang?
No, because I don't party, right? I don't drink,
Right.
but I still get the party time text. And I'm like, party time? What do you mean party time? But no, party time for us means it's time to play, right?
Yeah.
But I usually get a woohoo in addition to party time,
What?
and maybe if I'm good, big hugs.
Big hugs.
Jimmy actually texted me ending in big hugs today when I got off the plane. So it must be spreading, the woos, the party times, the big hugs.
Big hugs is a jazz musician's way of saying thanks in advance, right? Because I asked him to put 4 or 5 people on the guest list, and rather than waiting for a response, I just say big hugs. That means I don't want a response, I just want you to do it.
You started out sounding so nice, and it was such a nice expression.
It's a little manipulative, but it works.
It's definitely a pleasantry, but not in a bad way. I think it's a good one.
So, Jimmy.
But it's a useful tool.
It is.
I don't want to get you in trouble. I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer. Is jazz better than rock?
Oh yeah, no doubt. In fact, I was sitting with my good friend and partner, Billy Corrigan, and talking just about recording, right? And we were listening to his last effort, Monuments, and he told me, come over to the studio, I want you to hear it, I want you to tell me what you think. And I was just listening to it, and I'm going, knowing that it took a year to make this record, right? To sit around and talk about how we were going to construct a single, how we're going to put this stuff together, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, oh, you should check out my new record with Frank, A Love Supreme, with some of my heroes, Percy Jones, who I obviously knew from Brand X and was a huge influence on me. I said, you know how long it takes to make the record? as long as it takes to listen to it.
Right, yeah, you're playing it live.
Right, which is great. I mean, for me as a musician and as an artist, you know, the immediacy of jazz and being able to improvise on the spot is something that just, you know, it's such a huge part of my relationship with music that you just, and the Pumpkins were probably the best, you know, live example of continuing that relationship, where we wrote set lists every night. We didn't generally play the same thing every night. We were revamping arrangements on the fly all the time, or writing stuff and debuting it that night. So we did really push the envelope in that respect. But being on the stage with a bunch of great jazz musicians, really, there's an accountability to your instrument that you really don't get in any other environment.
So the new record is partially a tribute to Eddie Harris, great, I mean, he played sax and piano, didn't he, and organ?
I mean, he played almost everything, invented some new instruments, saxophone mouthpiece on a trumpet. But yeah, him and Von Freeman, Jimmy and I dedicated this album to them up in heaven because they were, at least to me, such cool people and taught me so much. It is funny because it might only take a few hours to record a jazz album, but there's 30 or 40 years of practicing every day that leads up to it too. So they're a big part of that.
I'm not going to go out and do it. I do want to ask you one question.
Uh-oh.
No, it's not. It's not a bad question at all. I went through, as in my course of my research, your Twitter feed. And one thing that you seem very passionate about are, well, two things, and they're connected, are literacy and anti-intellectualism.
Yeah,
So
that's a great, well, thank you for noticing. You know, look, I'm the father of two children, 13 and 10. They're both big readers. And for me, you know, not being a college graduate and being a business leader, when I look back at, you know, the way I was able to achieve what I've been able to achieve outside of music, it really comes from being able to read, right? Being able to pick up a book, understand what I'm reading, and put it into practice has everything to do with my ability to be a consultant for technology, a tech leader, a parent, or a better musician. And, you know, literacy in America has really taken a big hit. I mean, we've dropped to 13th as far as graduating college graduates in the country. In 1993, we used to be number 1. 50% of adult Americans read below an 8th grade level. 24% of them read below a 3rd grade level. And I mean, you can draw a straight line from literacy to just about every problem we have in this country, right? Whether it's incarceration rates, whether it's understanding of technology, whether it's financial illiteracy, just the understanding of news information. So really, I mean, when you combine illiteracy with anti-intellectualism, you get the current political climate. And one of the things that's interesting, as from a musical standpoint, like as an artist, right? Art will only ever be as sophisticated as the people that consume it, right? You can look at any type of musical high point throughout history, and there will always be some type of cultural renaissance attached to it. That's because culture will always be a reflecting pool of art, right? And vice versa.
And then if you listen to the people, if you're listening to complicated operas, your brain starts thinking a little bit.
That's absolutely right.
Thank you guys for coming on the show and talking to me.
Of course.
Frank Catalano, Jimmy Chamberlin. Thank you.
And you thought we were going to talk about jazz all night, right?
I just want to hear some jazz. am obviously not the demographic for Ebony.
You're not?
No.
You are too the demographic for Ebony.
But I enjoyed it.
You should read Ebony. Everybody should read Ebony.
That's my question. Should everybody read it?
Yes, they should. Everyone should read publications because of different, different niche areas, because you could learn something, and that's the whole point.
The Interview Show would like to thank Cards Against Humanity, Lifeway Foods, It Takes Guts, Field Notes, vintage-styled, made-in-the-USA pocket notebooks at 401 North Racine in Chicago, or fieldnotesbrand.com, and Lagunitas. Beer speaks, people mumble, except on The Interview Show.